evening and welcome. We're so excited to have you all here for tonight's Meet the Author event. My name is Terry Sanchez. I'm the program specialist here, and on behalf of the Newport Beach Public Library, welcome to our Meet the Author event featuring Robin Jones Gunn. I'd like to thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring our event. And Creating Conversations, our bookseller who's here this evening making books available. As I just mentioned, because of all of the supply chain restrictions, we are limited on books, but we do still have some available. So please feel free. At the end of the conclusion of the program, there will be book sales and signing. Our author Robin will be signing books. We will also be having a raffle, so hopefully everybody got their raffle ticket as they came in. If you didn't, please feel free to go to the back and grab one. We will be raffling off a book bundle of her book and DVD. So that'll be a good one. And then we also will have a time for Q&A. So there are note cards in the back if you had a question for Robin. We are doing it a little different for our regulars. We usually kind of go around with a microphone, but along with the times, we're going to not share microphones, and I'll be reading all the questions to our author this evening. So we are just thrilled to be featuring Robin Jones Gunn this evening. Robin is the best-selling author of over 100 books, including the timeless and ever-popular Christy Miller series. She's got a very faithful following of the Christy Miller series, and we just love hearing how excited people are, mother and daughter even, coming tonight to hear Robin speak. She's here tonight to speak about her Father Christmas series, which won 2 Reader's Choice Awards and then was picked up by the Hallmark Channel and made into 3 Christmas movies: Finding Father Christmas, Engaging Father Christmas, and Marrying Father Christmas. All 3 movies broke Hallmark Network records when they aired as the most highest rated and most watched movies for 2016, 17, and 18. Congratulations, Robin. Please join me in welcoming Robin Jones Gunn.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're all here. I'm especially glad that my friend Ed is here. Ed recently turned 100 years old. And also, I just met Abby and her husband, and they said, we decided to come. We live in Las Vegas, so we got in the car and drove 5 hours. Thank you for coming. Terry, we needed to have presents for the one who came the furthest and all kinds of, so thank you. It's a joy in general for us to be able to gather again. All of us have been so eager to be back in community and see each other and have things to celebrate. So I'm especially thrilled to be able to celebrate with you. It's been 2 years since I've had a speaking event. That I've had them, but they've all been canceled. So I love being able to do another maiden voyage into the world of speaking and sharing about these books, and that all of you are here tonight. It's really a joy. I grew up in Santa Ana, and I graduated from Santa Ana High School. My husband and I have lived various places, and just 1 year ago, we moved back to Orange County. So this really feels full circle because it's back in the same area where I grew up as a teenager, going to the beach at Newport Beach. And the first date my husband, Ross, and I ever had was for a Bible study at Calvary Chapel in Costa Mesa. My husband is with me tonight, and I'm just so delighted because it's been a journey that we've been able to go on together through all these years of writing and having these amazing experiences with the movies being made. And it's a privilege to be able to spend your life with someone who's so supportive. So thank you, Ross. So what I want to talk about, as Terry said, is to tell you about the Father Christmas movies, because we're getting close to Christmas and that seemed like a good thing to start talking about. But I need to tell you how that all came about, how it started. So with the very first journey into writing really began with a novel that was set in Newport Beach. Talk about full circle. And the main character in that book is Christy Miller. She has become like a real person. Raise your hand if you agree. Oh, good, it's not just me. She's become a friend to many readers, and I've continued to write about her over the years. But it started actually in San Clemente at the group campsite when we were on a group camping trip. Ross had been a youth pastor for 25 years, and one of the trips we took with the teenagers was a week-long camping at San Clemente. Here we are at the beach, and there are 13-year-old girls hiding out in the tent. And I went in the tent and said, "What are you doing? There's sun and sand and surf and boys. Why are you in the tent?" And they showed me a stack of 30 books that they had brought with them. They checked them out from the library. Good. And those books were really advanced for those 13-year-old girls' hearts. So I sat with them and I read the books with them and I talked about them. Said, "I really would like you to read something more about characters your age that's just more wholesome and appropriate for, does your mother know this is what you're reading?" And they said, "Okay, then give us some books like that." After the camping trip, I went to the library, I went to the bookstore, I found a few books. This was over 30 years ago. I brought them to the girls and they read them in 2 days and said, "Give us some more." And I said, I couldn't find any more. And then those girls said, "Well, why don't you write a book for us?" Now, at that point, I had written some articles. I had written some children's books. Our children were little. You know, there's like 4 words on a page in a children's book. It was really fun. So I didn't think that that's something that I was capable of doing. But those girls were relentless, and they said, "How about if we tell you what to write? How hard could that be? We know what we like to read. We'll help you out." So I took them up on the challenge, and I started to write. I set a schedule to get up 3 days a week at 3 o'clock in the morning and write for 4 hours, because that's the only time. Nobody ever called. Nobody ever said, "Mommy, Mommy." I had that complete quiet. And during that time, as I'm writing the chapters about Christy Miller, a teenage girl that goes to Newport Beach, spends her summer on the beach, all the things that were familiar, the girls in this youth group were waiting for me to come each week and sit with them and read to them what I had written. And as soon as I did, they would tell me everything I did wrong, everything that needed to be changed, everything they didn't like. And it took 2 years. And during those 2 years, I kept writing and rewriting and going home and starting over. And then I started sending off the first couple chapters and off to the publisher with a summary. And the letters kept coming back from the publishers. Rejection, 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 rejection. And most of those letters said, "We just don't see a market for books like this." And I wanted to write back and say, "Go look in the tent. Go to your daughter's bedroom. Ask your daughter what she's reading." We need more books that are wholesome and have these role models that are really uplifting instead of all the darker issues that for a teenager, they need that role model. So it was at just the right time, after 10 rejections, that a publishing house picked up the first Christy Miller book. And when they did, the editor said right away, "We should think about a series. There's a potential here for these girls. This is exactly what we want, but we think there could be a whole series." And so as soon as we got the books went out, within a few weeks, we got letters. I have received letters for over 30 years. every week. Have any of you written me a letter? There's a dozen of you. Did I write you back? Oh, phew. Just checking. I try. That's really on my heart to try, even if it's a postcard, just to say, yeah, I see you. I hear you. Because that's how it all started with those teenage girls. And so with these letters, these girls kept telling me what they wanted to see in more books. And I kept writing and writing and writing. And this is what I hear more than anything else. I hope one day that your Christy Miller books will become a movie. Your fan forever. And it has been an ongoing request, not only from the girls, but it's often a prayer request that I put out to my friends saying, if this is going to happen, I believe God has to open the doors, because this industry, I learned a lot when, surprisingly, the Father Christmas movies came out of some novels I wrote. So with the first Father Christmas book, there's two in one book. And the first book, when I wrote it, it came pretty quickly. I had it in my mind for a long time. The story just rolled out. The publisher said, we like it. Why don't you do another one? My agent said, great, I'll get a contract going. I sat down to write the second one, and it just took a little longer. It wasn't quite there. I finished it. I turned it in. And the editor at the publishing house said, oh, no, we need more romance. We need a love story. I said, well, the first book was not at all a romance. It was about a young woman trying to find her birth father. And they said, I know, but we know that our readers really like romance. And I know that. That's what the girls in the tent wanted. They wanted love stories. They wanted to have that dream, to feel like there's really hope in the world. So I went back to work. I rewrote Engaging Father Christmas, and I turned it in. And the editor said, no, that's not enough romance. We need romance. Do this and this and this. So I said, okay. And I went back to work, and I rewrote it a third time and added more romance and a little more complications. I turned it in and said, okay, that has to be it. I don't want to ever see this book again. And the editor came back and said, it was worse than the last time you were. And I had to think about it. Could I rewrite a book for the fourth time? I'd written over 50 books. And something in me felt like, well, go write your own book and leave mine alone. It just was that sense of, this is hard work to be an artist. This is hard to keep at this and to make it fit into the market and everything else. So I talked to my agent, and she said, you could walk away. You don't have to write it. You just think about it. I did, and the next morning I knew, no, I'm a professional. I need to finish what I say I'm going to write. I signed that contract, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to learn from this. And I made that phone call. It's good to humble out, isn't it? I mean, it's not fun, but it's good. It does something to really open up, and you're so receptive to say, what don't I know? What do I need to learn? So I rewrote it, and it was good enough to publish. So that Engaging Father Christmas was finished, and I said, okay, that's it. About 5 years later, my agent called and said, guess what? Hallmark is interested in books for Christmas movies. So I sent them Finding Father Christmas. I said, oh boy, what'll happen? Nothing. Then they came back after months and months and said, yeah, the book was good, but we just needed more romance. And my agent said, oh, romance? We have a second book. She sent that book, and they read the two of them, put them together, and said, this is exactly what we need. And they were able to take the two books, which are now published in one volume, and combine the stories, turn it over to the screenwriter, and he could write the script for Finding Father Christmas. Now, I really love telling that story because all of us go through these seasons, don't we? Where it's going to be a lot easier to just give up, walk away. This is hard work. It's not fun anymore. But there's a gift in there when you keep at it. You can't see it yet, but just humble out, learn a few new things, just wait and see, because the surprise is a very fun surprise. And that's what happened with the Father Christmas movies. My agent, Janet, and I were able to go on set, which not every author gets to do that, and be able to be part of the fun of the movie being made. So what I want to show you tonight is some of the behind the scenes and tell you a little bit about what it was like to be part of the magic of Christmas and Hallmark movies. First of all, what I have to tell you is the snow. Now, here we are. Here's our actress, Erin Krakow. You recognize her from When Calls the Heart. She is wonderful and adorable. And then over goofing off is Niall Matter. He was our hero in the story. And this white carpet that looks like you'd put in a quilt is exactly that. It's a white carpet of stuffing. And then here's our pyrotechnic guy. He's getting it all down. And then he had this machine like a big leaf blower. And he went out and he looked like something on Ghostbusters, and he just blew snow all over everything. And when it was all ready, the sun had gone down. It was about 80 degrees this day, and everyone's imagining that it's cold and snowy. But then at night, see, you can tell, it looks like snow. I've just ruined every Hallmark movie for you from now on. You're going to look for the fake snow because they do such a good job. It just has that ambiance, and you just feel like you're there. We discovered while we were on set that this 12-hour days that these actors go through, a lot of it is waiting. A lot, as you can see with the top monitors, it's getting in position, it's getting on set, it's getting the lines ready, it's getting the mics hung, it's getting everything just ready, and then they call action and it happens. Well, in the bottom frame, you see a theater. This is where one of the scenes was going to take place, and they had to get all the lighting right, all the marks on the stage for everyone to get where they were supposed to be. It just took probably an hour to set up that scene. Now, when you see it in the movie, the scene itself is maybe a minute and a half. You know, it's amazing how much goes into it. So when they were setting everything up, they had it all ready, and the actors that were going to be the extras had been brought in on a shuttle. One of the shuttles hadn't made it yet. So my agent turned to the director and she said, "You need us, don't you?" And he said, "Okay, you can be in the movie. I know, that's what you've wanted all along." "Oh yes, well, if you need us, we can be in the movie." And so he had us go sit in the back of the theater. He told us to cover our white shirts that we had on with something dark so we wouldn't stick out so much. And then just to look at the stage, and we were ready. Okay, here we go. So here I am with the little black jacket and the white and the way back with Jan. You see us? See us? Where's my little pointer? Well, that was my 3 seconds of fame. I got to be in a movie with Wendy Malick and Erin Krakow. If you watch it on the movie Finding Father Christmas, you can't blink. You will miss it. It's just that fast. It was so fun, though. And Wendy Malick and Erin Krakow, delightful women, I discovered how difficult it is to be an actress. You think of these long hours. They have the lines they have to memorize. They've just done one scene where their facial expression was a certain way, and then it's maybe lunchtime for 2 hours, or they're setting up. And we're playing with puppies at one house where the family had puppies out in the backyard. And then they go back into that scene, and they have to get right back to where they were. It's amazing. It's an exercise of a certain kind of muscle in their imaginations, I think. And I came to really appreciate careers of actors who have just really been able to capture a character and make you feel like they really are that person. What's really been fun is that we've stayed in contact. It's been 5 or 6 years now. And I just had a text from Wendy about 5 days ago. She's in another movie, and I don't know if I can say what it is, but she was telling me where they were on set filming this other film she's in. And I said, I want to see your hair and makeup. And so she took a picture and sent it to me, and it was very convincing. So very fun. I mean, just seriously, who gets to do that? Who gets to hobnob with, yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm telling you a story I made up. Like, look, and there's the main character. Her name's Robin, just like me, and she got to go on set. But it happened. It's real. It was such a joy. And Niall Matter was our hero in this story. He's pretty fun. He's just silly and kept everybody laughing most of the time when we had breaks. But he and his wife had a little baby girl right after the filming, and I sent them some of my books, and they were it was fun. I have some children's books it just feels like we really had this summer camp adventure. We were filming a Christmas movie, but it was Vancouver, Canada, where they filmed for Hallmark, and it was summertime. So the night came. It's Christmas movie time for Hallmark. The movie is going to be on Hallmark Movies and Mystery. I've never read the script. I just saw it was on set for 3 days, saw what they were filming those 3 days. And then it's time to turn on the TV with everybody else and see what it was like. And here, I just had to share this moment when the TV came on, based on the books by Robin Jones Gunn. I really wish that my daddy had lived long enough to see that, because when I had my very first article published, I was paid $10. And I was so excited because they wanted to know how my name should appear next to the article. And I put Robin Gunn because I had been married for a couple of years. And my parents were visiting, and my daddy looked at that and he said, "Hey, you've been a Jones a lot longer than you've been a Gunn. I want some credit. Put Jones in there." Okay, so Robin Jones Gunn became my pen name. And what's sweet and wonderful about that is my dad was the son of a Kentucky coal miner. We moved to California in the 50s because my dad became the very first teacher in Irvine at the Little Ranch School. Isn't that wonderful? And that sweet legacy of the Southern California. Our family came from Wisconsin. If you've read the Christy Miller books, you're going, wait a minute, Christy came from Wisconsin. She came to Newport Beach. You write what you know, it's how it goes. But that moment was a really sweet sort of full circle of, and this is going to sound like my dad because he was so patriotic, but we live in a fine country where you can come up from anything, from the daughter of a Kentucky coal miner, and to be able to hobnob with the movie stars. It's amazing. So what happened is, as Terry was saying, when the movie came out, it was Hallmark Movies and Mysteries highest rated and most watched telecast ever in the network history. And right away they said, let's do a sequel. So they took the screenwriter who was so great at doing it. He took the stories again and embellished and wrote. One afternoon in May, following when the movie came out at Christmas, my husband and I were in the parking lot at Costco. And I looked at my phone and there was a text message. This was it. It said, Robin, this story is a work of art. I just loved it and it's perfect for us. Okay, Bill Abbott was the CEO and president of Hallmark. Raise your hand if you've been in the Costco parking lot and the CEO of Hallmark has ever. I know. I'm just going, this is so fun. This is really amazing. They want to do another movie and they love the story. Now, what is it? It's because for all of you writers in the room, please listen to me. You have to write from your heart if it's going to touch a heart. You have to write what you know. It has to be true, and it has to ring true to the readers and to the viewers. It's not just with your head, it has to be with your heart. And then you have no idea what God can do because you're drawing out of the essence of what He's done in you, your life experience or your thoughts or your imagination. And only you can write that story. Nobody else would write it the same way. There's room on the shelf for your book. You gotta finish it. Humble out, get back to work. We need good stories. Pep talk over. This was fun. A friend in Croatia said, oh look, I'm watching your movie in Croatia. Okay, I just had to throw that in. That was kind of fun. The second movie also broke the record. It broke the record of the first movie. So they said, let's do a third one. By this time, the screenwriter's just making it up because there's no more book to go off of. But it was the characters. And that's what he said. I could take the essence of the story because the characters were strong. And that foundational first story was so strong. So when the third movie came out, again, with the first ones, I didn't even see the script. I wasn't very involved. But then by the third one, I actually got to have some conversations and have some input and be involved in the process. I learned so much. So when we got to that third one, you can see on the TV, it's just inspired by the Father Christmas novels, because there was just enough for them to lift out of the story itself. When we were on set, you can see that it's tight space. These aren't really very clear for you to see, but this cabin where they filmed, we had to fit about 40 people in there, and my agent and I were able to go in. This was for the second or third movie. And we just were in the very back, being very quiet and trying to not take up too much space. And Wendy, who's running through her lines, they're not filming yet, but Wendy in the striped blouse is running lines with Aaron. And Wendy suddenly stopped, and she said, in this room with 40 people holding the boom, and then she said, where's Robin? And I'm way in the back going, here. And she goes, I love how you write your stories. And everyone stopped and looked, and then it was like back to work. But the director stepped out in the room, and he said, everybody here, be nice to her. She's the reason you all have a job. But I'm telling you, I want you to think about that, especially because I know there's writers in this room. Like, your work has the potential to help our economy get going. There were 40 people in that room. There were 50 outside that were working on the film. There was the wardrobe and the catering, and let's not even talk about editing and the people at the network. Like, the power of a story when it's the right story, and to be able to have that ripple effect, it's again, very humbling in a different sort of way, because it means you didn't stop, you didn't give up. You just kept going. This sweet picture of Aaron, I had a moment where after the third movie came out, they were re-airing on Hallmark, and the first one, as I said, is a young woman who is searching for her birth father. And I was at a nail salon with my friend, picking out colors to paint my toenails, and a woman came up to me and said, "Are you Robin Jones Gunn?" "Yes." She said, "You have to meet my mother. She's over there getting a pedicure. I recognized you from your picture on something." I went over to her mother, and she has her feet in the tub, and the bubbles are going. And the daughter says to her mother, and her mother's about my age, and the daughter says, "Mom, this is the author who wrote the books that the movies were based on that I watched with you, the Father Christmas movies." And the woman getting the pedicure burst into tears, just sobbing. Everyone's looking. And when she composed herself, she said, "Your story changed my life, absolutely." After my daughter said, "Let's watch a Hallmark movie," and we watched the movie, I told her, "I've never told you, but when I was a teenager, I had a little boy, a baby, that was given up for adoption. And no one ever really knew because my parents took care of it. And I never told you, but when I'm watching this movie and I'm seeing this actress say, I've wondered every day of my life who he was. I just want to know who my birth father was." She said, "I wondered if that little boy has ever wondered who I was." And the daughter said, "Mom, let's go to the adoption agency, open the file, and if he wants to find you, he can." In 3 days, he called her, and he said, "I have wondered every day who my mother was and if she ever thought about me." And this woman having the pedicure is crying and saying, "We spent Christmas together after all these years." The story from the heart touches the heart. And that chance to look at real life and say, what is it that can be elevated? How do we bring hope and light and truth into this world? Because there's plenty of discouragement and darkness. I had another Hallmark movie that came out last year based on one of my books. And it's amazing they were able to do it during pandemic time. I had nothing to do with it. I just signed the paper. They took the book, they took the title, they got the actors, they filmed it. The story was fine. It had nothing to do with the book. It was a completely different experience. But this is what I wanted to say because, as I mentioned, everyone has asked over the years about Christy Miller. Is she ever going to be a TV series? This letter came 2 days ago. "Dear Robin, I had to write and tell you that the Christy Miller series forever changed my life. I feel like I grew up with Christy because I started reading your books when I was around 12, and I'm now 33. I could never thank you enough for how much your books and characters have impacted my life. I keep our local librarian busy because I'm always sending my friends to our library to check out all your books. They told me last week that they have to keep ordering more." I love it. "I work with a group of young girls, and last Christmas I gave all of them a copy of Christy Miller Volume 1, and that's this one that we've had such a hard time with shipping and delays to. This is my personal copy. You may not. I'm sorry, you can't. Go to your library. One girl in particular was impacted by the books just as much as I was, if not more. I have tears as I'm writing this because this year I have watched her blossom, and I know it's because of the wholesome role models in all your books. She read every single book within a few months. All the girls and I are hoping and praying for a Christy Miller movie or TV series someday. Please, don't ever stop writing. Our world needs the hope and light and love you write about. Love, Jenny. Jenny's not here, is she? I just read your letter, Jenny, if you are. I don't know who Jenny is. But with some of the young women I met earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if Jenny came from Las Vegas. And just no. The reason I read that is because the process has begun for Christy Miller to be made into production. I hear the gasps. And I told Terry, I have a little dream. When I came tonight, I said, I have this little dream that the next time you invite me to come into this room, we'll be showing the trailer for Christy Miller or something. And what's different, like I told you with Glenbrook having no control, what's different with Christy is I'm working with an extraordinary group of producers who have the same heart feelings I do about good stories. And they are making sure that we do what we need to do, that they gather the funding, that they have the control, so we can keep the stories like the book, and we can be able to do in high quality the kind of stories that we all feel is we need more of. So I just had to tell you that. I wish I could tell you more, but that's all I know right now. My last picture here is that I just want to probably be maybe among the very first to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Since we're not quite there yet, let's get through Thanksgiving, I agree. But I just am among those who is thrilled every year and around the world that we get to worship, we get to celebrate that Christmas is a sacred holiday, that we can have that chance to gather together with family, very much a Hallmark, kind of the love and the good wishes. But the deeper meaning, which is in all my books, is that we're celebrating that night when God sent his only Son to be the Savior of the world, and that he became one of us so that we could become one of his. And that's what the hope and the light that is missing in so many corners of our world can be communicated in stories and in movies. I am so privileged to be one of those few, really, who can do that and who have been given a platform and given opportunity. And the fact that you've come tonight, I hope that it'll stir in you ways that you can support the kinds of stories and the kinds of movies that have that value. And yes, I want to save time for questions, so let's do that now. Terry, thank you.
Thank you, Robin, for that beautiful message and sharing your journey with us. Before we do our raffle, I do have a handful of questions. And Emily is coming around. If any of you did not have a chance to write down a question and you do have a question, she's coming around with a box right now. Feel free to throw it in. There are still note cards in the back, but I'll get started on this. And then we will do our raffle. Hopefully everyone got a raffle ticket. If you did not get a raffle ticket, go to the back table. Make sure you get one. We are raffling off one copy of Robin's book, the 2-in-1 with those first two, and then the DVD. So this is like a hot item that you want. Okay. Let's go, and I need to put on my readers. First question. How did you transition your characters from teen to married with kids? Was it hard to do?
With Christy Miller, there are over 40 books about the same characters. The first book, Christy, is 14 years old, and I have continued to write about her. She's now in her early 30s, and that's why I think she's real, and I'm glad a lot of you do too. But the continuing series was not difficult because our children were growing up, and by the time our son and daughter were in college, I was writing Christy and Todd the college years, and then the married years, and then the baby years. So they've given me all that helpful feedback. Not difficult to write about the characters at a different stage of life. What's difficult is to try to keep everything timeless so that it's not that you're writing with technology that's going to go out of style. It's just writing about things that are going to be the same for the next generation.
Okay. Do you only work on one transcript at a time? And did you ever imagine your books being turned into a movie? Congratulations.
I usually write, I usually just stay on one project at a time. There have been a few times when I've had several projects going, but it helps to just stay in that world, that imagination. I never pictured any of my books becoming movies except for Christy Miller, and I've thought of that for decades. I can see her on the beach. I can just see that. So it was a big surprise that it was Father Christmas that sparked the attention of the producers.
Did you ever have a bit of PTSD when you were writing especially hurtful stories?
That's a good question. I wrote a memoir. It took 6 years. And if I did it now, I'd probably do it completely differently. But it was a request to do the stories of about the first 20 years of my writing journey. And I did so many keynotes at writers' conferences, and there was always that request. How did you get started? What did you do? So A Victim of Grace is the title of my memoir. And I don't know that I had PTSD, but I would just start, and then I would stop and tell my agent, I need more time. Because all the books had been, I got to hide behind the main characters. Like, oh, Christy would feel this, wouldn't she? I mean, maybe it was something I really felt, but I projected it on the characters. So then and then my family and I were, oh, that was rough. I don't want to write about that. So I don't know that it's PTSD, but I think there's two ways to write a memoir or write about an actual experience. One is to put yourself in that mindset that it is going to be your own personal therapy, and you need to do it. You need to write this out if nobody ever reads it, and you just need to get it out and look at it and evaluate. And then the other way to do it is to always be thinking, how could this help someone else? Not this is my stuff, but rather how could this be a benefit to give someone else the tools they need? And you might need to do this first before you can do this objectively.
Hi, Robin. You always have a way of making me feel special. I have autism. My name is, I think it says Chelsea. Correct me if I'm misreading it. My name is Chelsea. My question is, what is your favorite Bible verse?
Thank you for that question, Chelsea. I have a lot of favorite Bible verses, but the one I was thinking about today, as I was looking at the PowerPoint and going, what a journey this has been, is Psalm 108. I don't remember, I think it's 12. In Psalm 108, there is a verse that says, "Let this be written for a future generation, that a people not yet created may praise the Lord." Isn't that beautiful? And the reason I was thinking about that was because when I kept getting those rejection letters, 1, 2, 3, 10 rejections, and I found that verse and I wrote it on a little card and I put it by the kitchen sink. We didn't have a dishwasher and I was always washing dishes and our kids were little, and I thought, what if I just dared to dream really big? Like, don't let this just be written for the little girls in the youth group, but what if this could be written for a future generation, the people not yet created may praise the Lord, may know God. And that's happened. I get letters from moms saying, I grew up with Christy and now my daughter's reading the books. So it's like, I thought about that today, Chelsea, because it was like, we pray, but wow, when you get to see the answer to prayer like that, it's pretty great.
The books of Father Christmas are very much stories of faith. What was the process that led to it being less of a focus in the movies?
The process is that it goes through a screenwriter who is directed by a production team, and they want to have the story be enjoyed by the most amount of people without offending and without being too issue-oriented. And so I knew that in going in, and Hallmark has their set style, which was just great for this story, but it meant it had to be shifted to fit into how they tell stories. And I was fine with that because I felt like we lived in Hawaii for 10 years, and there's a beautiful Hawaiian phrase that's he aina ia mai ana kapuana, and it means let the story be told. And I love that because there's so many different ways to tell a story. So when I signed that agreement, I knew they were going to take complete creative control, but I really felt like just let the story be told. And if someone's curious enough, come read my book. Please read books. It's a good thing. But that there's that chance to have just a little touch point, I'll take that over nothing.
If there could be a movie off of 1 year in your life, what movie would it be? Or what year would it be? Sorry, what year would it be?
That is an excellent question, and you have stumped me. Where are you?
That's a tough one. That is a big question.
And I know because in all the books about Christy, as she's growing up from 14 years old into her 30s, so I send Christy and her friends off to Europe for the summer. Well, I did that for 4 months when I was 20. So I wrote all about all the places we went, so it's like there already have been stories that I wrote where I just extracted experiences, but I don't know. I don't know which one. Some years they'd be like a horror film. Other years it'd be great romance.
I'm going to read two of these together just because they're similar questions. I'm a longtime TV journalist and writer who just received my Master of Fine Arts in screenwriting. My Christmas screenplay was just chosen as a finalist in a reputable competition. Ooh, congratulations.
I know. Congratulations.
Any advice for screenwriters on making contact with Hallmark?
Another great question, because all of this went through my agent. I have no idea how it happens, but I do know that I've had other screenwriters who've had those connections made when they got into online groups where there's chat rooms or chats going on with people in the biz, that they can make those kind of networking connections. I also know that there are some conferences that are opening up, whether it's a weekend event or week-long. I don't know any off the top of my head, but I know writers who have gone to these kinds of conferences for screenwriters, and then as a result, just over the lunch, walking to the rooms, they happen to have that connection. It is very, it's just my experience, which is limited, but it was very close with the production company that I worked with. And when they went on to do the next one, they wanted to work with the same screenwriter. They wanted the same actors, of course. They wanted the same director of photography. I mean, like, they become well-oiled machines when you've worked on a whole production together, and so you want to continue on other projects together. So I just try to get into some of those circles. And congratulations, whoever you are. It's wonderful.
And kind of a similar question, what advice would you give to authors looking to adapt their novels to film?
Okay, what I would tell you to do is to take your book and be objective, look at your story, and then write a treatment. It could be 2 pages, usually they're 10 pages long. Write that treatment that in 10 pages you can say what your story's about and show that arc of how the characters grow and what happens in the story. When you have that treatment, then you're in a position where you can present it. Because think about how much comes to a production company in all the different doors that people try to get into. And what a stack of books. Everybody that's written a book, here, read my book, read my book. There's not time to read a book. They can read a 5 or 10 page summary of what your story's about with a 1 page on why this would make a good movie. It's kind of like this movie, but it's different because, so you've done the hard work for them. You've put it together so you can pitch it.
Okay, I have someone who's asking about the New Haven Maker books. A New Haven Maker book soon. Who will be the protagonist?
Right now there are 2 Haven Maker books, and we do not yet have plans for a 3rd one. Yep, talk to my publisher, baby. No, it's just how this industry goes. It's like, let's wait. We have other projects we're working on, and so the Haven Makers are with a traditional publisher, and so I love working with them. It's a division of Random House. They're wonderful, but they get to call the shots. So maybe there'll be a 3rd one. You never know. There you go. My husband says, write the publisher.
How has your writing process changed over your career, if at all? And you're a very self-made author. How did you manage the overwhelming process of becoming published?
It has changed a lot over the years. Like I said, at the first, I only could get the work done if I got up early in the morning, carved out that time. I have more random chunks of time now that I work in. I also, with the process, was helped by always keeping in sync with writers' conferences or with groups of writers or having online groups that I met. So there was always dialogue going, inspiration from other writers, meeting in person with critique groups, and that chance to toss out all my questions to people who had already gone down that path. So that has not changed. I'm still very much connected to other writers. The whole process itself is more of weighing out all those ideas. I mean, all you creatives in this room, you know what I'm saying? It's just like so many ideas, so little time. and it's just sifting out and going, this one really resonates and I want to keep going with this one. And then you have to just get to work. You have to show up and keep going.
Which of your characters from either the Christy Miller series or the Glenn Brooks series are you most like?
Well, probably Christy. Probably Christy. Glenn Brooks series. Maybe Meredith, because she was kind of a klutz.
And this is an interesting one. This is coming from a Biola couple. Can you tell me more about like the connection with Biola and Christy Miller?
Biola couple, I want to meet you. Hey, Biola couple. I went to Biola. Ross went to Talbot. The connection with Christy Miller is that the university I made up in Christine Todd, the college years, is pretty much based on Biola, and the fountain, if you recognize how familiar some of the buildings seemed. But my connection was having a really great experience there and really good friends that I'm still very good friends with. Actually, this is a fun story. My roommate, my second year, in Alpha Chi room 117 was Margie. And Margie got married and had 3 boys. And I got married and had a son and a daughter. And our daughter met their middle son having nothing to do with us, and now they're married. So I know.
Amazing. What is your favorite book/movie?
My favorite movie is Babette's Feast. Has anyone seen that? Oh! Has anyone else ever heard of it? Okay. What is it you like about Babette's Feast? The whole story is fascinating. I love that yes. I love that this woman was so gifted and she gave her all, and it was maybe not really appreciated, but it didn't matter. She loved the giving of it. Yeah, I could watch that over and over.
Can you repeat the title again?
Sure, it's Babette's Feast. It's random. It's my favorite. I don't know. Favorite book is Perelandra by C.S. Lewis. I read it in college. It's part of the sci-fi trilogy. I don't read sci-fi, but Perelandra, I mean, another world, and they rode dolphins. Come on. I've never forgotten it. Yeah, that rings true.
What is your writing process? Basically, are you a pantser or a plotter?
So a pantser is when you just go sit in your chair and you just write and write and write. A plotter is you have maybe an outline or a summary, or I'm mostly a pantser. But my process is that I spend a lot of time thinking about the characters, thinking about the story, taking lots of notes. And then when I sit down to write, it's very much all around me. And I have binders full of pictures and ideas and things. But I have written some nonfiction books where it's outlines and chapters. You can do both.
And what's been your biggest surprise? What you've gained from writing your books?
These are good questions.
They are good questions.
Wow. Biggest surprise. It's kind of funny. The first thing that came to mind is that I'm surprised anybody ever read them. I know that sounds but it's just that starting so specifically that this is just for this little group of girls. And my agent was just giving me some updates, and the books have sold over 6 million copies worldwide and translated in various languages, and I can't explain that.
We're down to our last few.
You all have been so patient. Thank you.
I have 3 more questions, and then we're going to do that raffle. So if you have not gotten a raffle ticket, I want to make sure it's fair. Please go get a raffle ticket. I attended Irvine Elementary School on what is now Sand Canyon. I think it says K to 8th grade. As a 7th grader in 1961. Was your dad teaching there at that time?
Yep. Where are you? That's amazing. Yep. Travis Jones. No. Yep. Oh, wow.
That's fun. Did you always know you wanted to be an author, or what was it the day in the tents? Or was it the day in the tents? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, it was the day in the tents. I never thought I was going to be an author. I got in trouble for telling stories when I was growing up. My mother called it lying. So I tried to curb my imagination, tried to just not embellish everything, even though my mind was always coming up with a story. So I didn't see it as a gift. And that's maybe a little bit of encouragement. You have that little child in your family, that grandchild, that niece, nephew, that's always making up stories. There's a gift in there. There's something in there that can be nurtured and, brought about to be really useful. So don't punish them too hard.
Okay, and our last question. How are you enjoying living in California? I followed your move from beautiful Hawaii on Instagram. I love you so much. That's from Lydia.
Thank you, Lydia. This feels like home because it's where my husband and I both grew up in this area. The transition was big, pandemic-y, everybody, it was big, changing and isolation. It's starting to feel more like there are things for us to be about here. We had such a full life for 10 years in Maui, and we're so involved. And so now things are opening up, and so it feels really good and right to be in motion. And I kind of wish that for all of you, because we've all gone through that. Like everything kind of paused, whether you moved or not, but then it's now, all right, get back on that bicycle. I remember how to do this. And a lot of that is just you coming here tonight and gathering and saying, we want to support the arts. I have a big thank you to give to a wonderful woman, Elizabeth, who I know wouldn't want me to point her out. But Elizabeth and her husband, John, are the reason we're in this building. Like their love for the arts and for those who want to do music and to write and to express in this community is made possible by those who are so generous in providing ways and places for us to do that. So you can yell at me later, Elizabeth, but thank you.
Well, thank you, Robin, for answering every question so thoughtfully and graciously. Emily, could you bring me the raffle? And I am going to ask you to make your way over so that you don't get mobbed. We'll get you seated before we do anything. Okay, did everyone get a raffle ticket? Okay, hold on. And I'm just going to read out the number. Okay, I'm not looking. Ticket number 853159. Yay! Thank you. Check me out. Congratulations. I'm going to. Yep. Congratulations. Thank you all so much for attending tonight. I apologize if I didn't get to your question. There were some repeaters, so I skipped those. And if you would like to purchase a book and have Robin sign it, come meet her. Please form a line. We're going to start right here, and then just come on up.